Welcome to the Chosson and Kallah Shmooze you wish you had but never got, Part 7. I remind everybody, because of the sensitive nature of the material that we're presenting, please listen to these discussions in order. In the first one, starting with the introduction, and listen carefully. In addition, if those who are interested, you can contact me. The PDF of the curriculum of these presentations are available for purchase. Please send me an email. So, in our discussion, we have been going through the 13 distorted beliefs that undermine marital and relationship harmony. And today, we're up to distorted belief number 8. Now, this one often happens, and it's an important one to understand with subtlety what is the boundaries of this idea. So most people feel or expect that one should love their in-laws, and perhaps the in-laws expect that their children-in-law should love them. And that's a very difficult thing to legislate. In fact, the Gemara in Eruvin on Pei Vav Amud Aleph and Gittin on Chaf Gimel Amud Beis is clear in a practical sense that the rabbis understood that there often is a difficulty and a rivalry between children and parents-in-laws. And not only that, but the whole idea of expecting someone to love somebody is a difficult piece. The Ramban in Vayikra, Perek Yotes, Pasuk Yud Zayin, on the Pasuk of Vahavta l'reacha kamocha, the verse that says one should love one's friend as oneself, he himself says that it can't really be that, because the Torah can't expect you to love somebody. He said what it means is that you should, in your actions, behave toward your friend, toward your fellow Jew, with behaviors that indicate love to the same degree that you would do for yourself. Whatever you would like, you should do for the other person. The Ramban says that's why it's possible that the pasuk says, "Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." There's an extra lamed which translates roughly as you should love toward your friend as yourself, as opposed to you should love your friend as yourself, because the toward means the behavior, the activity. So what is a good focus for in-laws? What a good focus is one should treat your in-laws, whether it is your children-in-law or your parents-in-law, with respect. Respect means decency, means the relationship should be cordial. And if one does that, that will possibly, in certain cases, as a bonus, there might be love in the future. That might happen. But it is not necessarily a demand or a right or an expectation that someone will love their in-laws. It does happen. There are in-laws that feel to their children or to their parents as if they're their own children or parents. It does happen, but that's not the requirement. Another thing that happens often, there's two in-law related issues that go on, which is oftentimes one spouse will put down the other spouse's parents. That is extremely dangerous. And the arguments might be, well, I hear you put down your parents. But we all know that certain people have a license to do things and others don't. We know, for instance, certain racial groups can amongst themselves make jokes and even use racist language. But people outside that group cannot do it without causing a great deal of offense and distress. Here too, no matter what your spouse says about his or her parents, never yourself allow yourself to put down those in-laws. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Not only that, parents should never put down their children-in-law to their blood children. That is a very bad idea. Whether we like it or not, and whether it helps or not, we are very influenced by our parents. And what our parents say and think means a lot to us. Hopefully, most of the time, that's a good thing. once in a while, that's not such a good thing. Even kibbud av v'em, honoring one's parents, has limitations, and many limitations have to do with deciding what is moral and proper, and then one's own idea oftentimes comes first. So it can be extremely destructive for parents to put down their children-in-law to their blood children. That is extremely hurtful, and quite frankly, it's a violation of rechilas. It's a violation of one of the laws of Lashon Hara, which is you're not allowed to say something that will cause another person to dislike another person. In addition, in-laws should always strive to be a benign presence. It's easy to get this sense that they're like your children, and one wants to give over advice, musar, corrections, all kinds of things. But the truth is that in today's day and age, even adult children don't take very kindly to unsolicited advice from parents. And surely, with in-laws, that should be the case. And there's a saying, and perhaps it's a little gruff, but it's important, which is in-laws should have their mouths closed and their pocketbook open. Now, one doesn't need to provide financial support for their children, especially if they can't afford it. But remember again what we talked about in one of the earlier discussions about nekama. Nekama is to withhold a chesed, is to withhold a kindness on the basis of how you were treated. Meaning one is not allowed to evaluate how much we think the other person likes us or dislikes us or how angry we are, and then do a chesed based on that, or not. That is nekama. That is the halachic definition of taking revenge. We can choose to give or not give to people based on our judgment of how much we could afford, of other factors, of whether we think it will be helpful, but never out of a motivation of resentment or to control. Therefore, one should never use money as a way to control one's children, and surely their in-laws. Give if you can, don't give if you cannot, but certainly don't control. Likewise, oftentimes children who accept monetary gifts from their parents feel in some way beholden to those parents. Now, hakaras hatov is a wonderful midah. Being grateful, showing gratitude is superior, and one should always do that. But it's not about the money. We should show gratitude to our parents because they gave birth to us, because they took care of us, not because they gave us money today. And in point of fact, sometimes, respectfully, that needs to be stated. If parents, let's say, are offering money for a house, but they attach strings and they say, you need to move to this neighborhood or that neighborhood, while they have a right to ask, and perhaps even out of gratitude, one could consider, not obey, but consider the need or request of the parents who are granting those funds. But it's also important to say respectfully, while I appreciate so much the money that you're giving, and the love even more that comes along with it, I cannot use your money as a way to be controlled or make decisions that won't be in the best interest of my shalom bayis or my family. Now, those are tough things to say, but they're very worthwhile, and especially if they're said in a respectful, differentiating way. Okay, we'll do one more. The ninth distorted belief. The ninth distorted belief is that if one is sad or upset, depressed even, is the spouse's responsibility to make you feel good. Now, that's a very fine thing. One should certainly always do their best, within reason, to help their spouse. And if you see that your spouse is unhappy or sad or needs some kind of encouragement, sure, why not do that? But there's a difference between doing that voluntarily versus the other person expecting it as a right. The reality is that ourselves, and only ourselves, I and only I, is responsible for my happiness and for my well-being. Nobody else. And that's an important point. Others can have an interest. Others could, out of the kindness of their heart, out of the goodness of their heart, they can do something for another person, and it's the right thing to do. But the right thing to do is not a right. It's not a demand, nor is it an expectation. And therefore, we must be very careful to take responsibility for our own happiness and our own well-being. And it's perfectly fine, appropriate, even mature, to tell your spouse, I am having a very bad day. If there's a way that you can soothe me and make me feel better, I graciously accept. However, I want to warn you that I'm having a very bad day, and I'm not in a great mood, and I'm probably going to need time by myself or need a way to find a way to recover. If you want to help me, that's great. But I recognize that this is my shortcoming. This is my immaturity. I am not able today to be as emotionally available, perhaps as kind, as patient as I should be. Please excuse me for my shortcomings.